All right, folks, welcome back to another episode of the Deer Gear Podcast. I'm your host, Cameron Derr, and today I am joined by Dorge from Fireknock to discuss more about bow design. Last time you heard Dorge on the podcast, we talked on a high level about different bows and bow designs, but today we dive deep into the design of the cam. We discuss things like solo cam, dual cam, cam and a half, the advantages and disadvantages to each different cam design, where Dorge thinks cam design should play in on your decision to buy a bow. We also go into a little bit of Dorge's recommendations if you're out there looking for a new bow this year. What would Dorge shoot? So if you're interested in hearing that, stick around. This was a fun one. Before I get into that, I want to give you guys a couple quick updates on everything here at Exodus. There are going to be some really big announcements coming down the pipeline. If you have been paying attention to the content and maybe you want a different diameter arrow shaft, or maybe you want a more competitive priced cell camera, if those two things interest you, make sure you sign up for the Exodus newsletter on our website. Go to ExodusOutdoorGear.com. Scroll down to the bottom of the page, enter your email to join our inner circle, and all of the announcements will be released there first, and they're coming up quickly, guys, so make sure you're signed up for that. With that being said, guys, I hope everyone has a very Merry Christmas, Happy New Year to you. It's a great time to be a deer hunter. If you still have a tag in your pocket, keep grinding. Let me know how your season is going, guys, and let's get into the podcast with Dorge. All right, folks, here we go. Another episode of the Deer Gear Podcast. Dorge and I are sitting down this morning. First, we're going to start here with some listener-submitted questions. Dorge, you up for that?
Yep, I got a customer just come out and say, can we discuss about a bow cam? What are the different cam design and what are the benefit of each? That's a deep project.
Yeah, that's not so simple, huh?
No, not so simple, because the cam, as we know in the old days, the first time ever a cam I will need to go back to the round wheels, which in some way is a very good approach because it gives you the let off. It's extremely smooth drawing. It gives you what a compound bow is supposed to do. It makes it easier to draw in a hole. In some way, I say for some people, that round wheel approach is not bad, especially the beginners. And the more aggressive the cam, in other words, the more you change the radius of a cam to a short radius, the more let off you have, the more power you get. The sharper the angle goes, the higher the the faster the cam. And some people think that's good, but it's also harder to war.
Sure.
But that itself, and then we go from the original twin cam design, Then when Matthew come up with a solo cam, and that was one of the major difference. But I still think for everything said and done, the solo cam is not a bad approach, but I think at the time you were launched, the string was the issue. Then after that, I think really one of the best design from beginning to now, I still think the cam and a half is the best approach
from Hoyt,
because it's the Hoyt implementation of the cam and a half is the best approach. The Stratus SL71 cam and a half, good design? I would say no, but you have to give Gavin Strader a lot of credit. He really, he did not understand the science behind it. He just simply changed the cam, shaped the cam until he got the speed, which the SL71 is the fastest cam and a half system out there. I mean, the reason is the fastest single cam, but you don't want it.
Why not?
If you use it, if you put it once, you know exactly what I mean. It's the fastest single cam with the worst pull.
So it's just super aggressive.
I would not say so. It's a single cam bow is one kind of bow that you really need to look at what the specs is. Let me give you an idea. If you do a single cam bow and you go from say 70 pound, 30-inch draw at 350 grains. You got that 353 feet per second. The moment you put a 370 grain arrow, that thing dropped down to maybe 310.
Yeah.
And then you go 410 feet per second, you're lucky to get 270.
Yeah.
So that kind of approach, you need to understand if you are a person who like heavy arrow, that's not a good bow to shoot.
Sure.
Because how the cam approach and then the design is just not ideal for that approach. So in other words, let me get back. Just say a very important thing. The cam design and the weight of the arrow and your draw length and how the riser match with it together will make a bow different. I mean, just like I personally think that the PSC did a great job on all the X4 system, which is a cam and a half system in most of the cases. Like the PSC X4's tree stand, that's a fantastic small bow. I mean, if you need a what you call it, a small, compact, lightweight bow, go back to that one. I mean, if you want an ultra smooth draw around all corners, I would say the PSC X4s, that would be a great one. And if you just feel like putting a 55-pound bow and you want a fantastic speed, then you go back to something like a PSC X at 55 pounds. Don't think about a 70, even if you put a 70-pound bow. So in other words, all the design really helped. And some people say, well, what happened to all the new designs? Well, the newer designs are, actually, if you look through the approaches, the newer cam designs are actually binary twin cam, except they take away one of the more aggressive design, of course, like the Hoyt RX-7 is a binary cam. One of the best binary cam I think have put through to the industry was the Elite GT500. And I think the Expedition did quite a good job too. Expedition, like the Excursion 6, 7, did a very, very good on a binary cam. And I think Darton did a better job than most because of the 2.5 cam. What that actually is that it doesn't allow the cam to lean that badly.
Sure. Which is what Prime had a design similar where it had dual cams that would eliminate the cam lean.
Well, that design is a good approach, but an expensive approach.
Sure.
Expensive as in machining and expensive as moving mass.
Yeah, you have more parts.
There's a lot more parts. I mean, just like imagine you got if you're into racing, remember Elf tried to give him a better steering, put 2 front wheels in the front?
Yeah.
Yeah, he did do a good job. But you lose a lot of maintenance, tires, steering, complexity.
Yep.
Hey, but he did exactly what he's supposed to do. Sure. I mean, it is. I mean, just put this way: if you're in Formula One, how can you forget that one?
Yeah. So I have a question on cam design where you have a modular specific cam or a rotating mod on the cam. What are the downsides and pros and cons to having each of those setups?
First of all, when you want absolute speed, just like anybody who wants absolute speed would appreciate a draw-specific cam, because then your curve is absolute. You are using the best of the best. That is not a compromise. But manufacturer and dealer both do not like that. In the old days, when you deal with the Matthew on the solo cam, you notice anytime you got a different draw length, you got a different cam.
Right.
Is it a bad thing? No, it's not a bad thing because you use like the absolute best approach because you design it specific. But then a lot of people like the fact is that the moment you put modules on it, you can bow that what come, you got a short customer come in and a tall customer come in, you can sell them the same bow. That was pretty much the only reason a modular cam a module-based cam come in. That is sliding module or change module. I mean, they are all the same.
Right.
In other words, just look at your curve. If you want this draw length with this curve on it, and to be frank with you, in some cases, if you really, really want to do it right, it is not just string specific. It's not just cam specific. You should make string, cam, everything specific.
Right. Yeah.
Because just like the moment you design something, there's no compromise. Because see, the moment you compromise, you're giving up something. But just like, in the case of the Hoyt on a cam and a half, you notice that they have the 27 to 30, 25 to 27. I mean, why can't they just cover the whole thing like the kids bowl? Like the kids bowl usually go from 22 inches all the way to 30 inch because they compromise too much.
Right. Yeah. I just did a podcast with one of the guys over at Hoyt, and he was talking about that, where they have their two different cam designs, two different rotating mod cam designs. And he was saying that if you went and had like a 5-inch draw length range, it's way less efficient than if you had like a 3-inch draw inch.
Correct, because you in other words, just like that original. This is one thing is when you design thing, you always go with the higher end, and then you scale it down. Except on poundage of a bow. Like for example, 90% of the bow out there was designed for 70 pounds, and you put 80-pound slims on it. You find out most of them, depends on the material. Most of them, the riser can't handle it. I mean, would you notice it? Most people don't. That's the reason when people say, oh, I want a 90-pound bow. You need to find out, first of all, how many bow out there is designed for 90 pounds.
Yeah, not many.
I'm pretty confident the prime 8,000 series aluminum would definitely do it. Would definitely do it because the materials can handle it. It's just like telling yourself you get a rebar and then you want to make it for, say, screwdrivers. It's not going to be good. The material's too soft.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just so many things involved on material science, on what it is. But the basic material just like when the PSDF first came out, I remember it was told it was about 1.2, 1.3 pounds when they finished on the riser. But nobody can shoot it. It's like a tuning fork.
Yeah.
You need a certain mass. So, right, too light. So ideally, a bow is around 3.5 pounds, I would say, by itself. When you finish with it at 4 pounds, based on a 200-pound person, that seems ideal.
Okay.
I mean, just like a tennis racket. I mean, yes, you can go so light. You cut the moment when you hit the ball with it, your whole body shakes.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Going back to more of the cam design and how it affects not just speed and draw length and everything, but the shape of the cam is going to affect the draw cycle of the bow. And
it's not just the shape of the cam, because there's multiple ways you can hide where the cam is. Okay, remember the Matthew Charles no cam? There's two cams in it. The cam is actually on the but like most of the bow, the cam is actually on the cable, not on the string.
Okay.
The no cam actually 100% is on the cable.
Okay.
And the wheel on the outside is the draw, which makes the draw very smooth. But when the draw and the cam don't work together as a system, very much like the Hoyt cam and up, you notice that Hoyt really tried their best to give them the maximum difference for the slave cable of the cam to do the job. That's the reason you notice how close that Hoyt cable on the shaft is. I mean, one of the best examples is that look at the Raven. The cam and the difference between the cam and also the helix center is your difference. It's dramatic. And then you add poundage to it. Sure. But that is a very, very good approach. The reason for that, because it really, really gives you what you call it balanced, because it's 2-to-1. In other words, it's very much like the prime did. It's truly draw the center down. Okay? Well, remember, when you draw the bow, it is the draw cycle that is the most important, not stationary.
Right.
That means, I mean, like in the old days when we do cam and a half design, we simply say, make sure the bow, when you draw it, when stationary, the left and right is the same, you adjust the yoke cable, you get it balanced. But of course, the people, if you shoot a binary cam, you need to shim it so that when the cam both move left to right and right to left on the upper and lower reverse, drop what is so important, because you want to see where the arrow is. The whole thing, did the cam move from left to right and right to left exactly the same? Yeah. So yes, you're gonna get some side load on it. You're gonna get knock travel no matter what. That's the downside of binary. A binary is the least amount of material with the maximum amount of cam, which give you the highest efficiency on energy transfer. Now, like the current Matthew design, I mean, do I really like it? Not really. It had too much complexity. The cam itself have what, 2 ball bearings on it. Those are called the large ball. Actually, it's a very called large diameter ball bearing. I use that design quite a bit on my Aeroving jig. Those kind of ball bearings are great. I also use that on my aero crank. That ball bearing approach, yes, you get efficiency out of it. Can you do something similar? I would say wax alone would do the job too, but it's much more efficient. But if you look at it, the only difference what that thing does is the diameter change inside the ball bearing. That's all the thing it did. But it added a huge amount of complexity and weight. And they did another thing which I don't think is one of the better, is that they add too much weight in the center. I mean, when you add too much weight in the center, you also add mass, which means that just like every time, everything else, the moment you want to start to rotate, is initiation of the rotation is where weight is your enemy. And then, of course, they lowered that to the maximum on the mission Sub-1XL. That's the reason if you make any mistake, you end up with a really crooked cam. Yes, just like, since it's this, we talked about crossbow last time, I'll remind you. Remind all my, a person asked me what to we look out. If you ever shoot a Sub-1XL and you decided to use my D3 knocks compared to the factory flat, the moment you change your string, you must shoot a moon knock 3 to 5 times first before you use the moon knock again. People say, what? Yes, people forgot. This is what happened. This is the dramatic proof of how each design all need to be looked at, because see, unlike others, I'm more stay in the crossbow world. So everything is more power. Everything is more dramatic. Do you know why this happened? Because see, the Sub-1XL is a high let-off bow. The reason they do a high let-off because they try to make the trigger do less work, crispier. Because if it's high let-off, that means there's less power holding on the trigger. That means the trigger become crispier. But now imagine this, you take a brand new string out of the bag. What does the string look like? They're not straight, they're all crooked, isn't it? And then now you put this on the bow, and then say whatever poundage is on it, you draw the bow back. And when you draw all the way to the back, how many pounds is on the string? Say 20%. So it's 150 pounds, now you're holding 30 pounds. Then you go ahead and put a brand new 5-knot D3 style knot, which is a clip-on knock. The moment you fire it, how many pounds is on the string? 30. But the moment it reached the cam full load, it's 150 now.
Right.
And what does the string look like? It was not straight. It's out of the back crooked. And since it's out of the back crooked, and now you let go of the power, because at that moment, 13, you let go, the string will now go back to its shape of not straight. It have a 50-50, no, 70-30 chance of lifting that arrow off the rail. And since it's a full containment, the arrow itself is also off the rail. And the moment it touches the let-off starting point, since the arrow is off the rail, the arrow now is sling off the rail. And then all of a sudden, you got a dry fire situation. Now you're looking at $330.
Yeah, that's an expensive mistake.
No, it's not expensive. I mean, I got a customer in my shop did it, and then I did it once myself. I said, "What the hell?" Oh gosh! And then, of course, at that moment, try to get a Sub-1XL cam is close to impossible. I was lucky enough to find one. No, we're talking about 6 weeks wait back then.
Wow!
But then I learned. The moment I say, how come Matthew never that problem? Because they got a half moon They got a flatten out with a lip on it. So imagine the string go up and down have no effect on the string position. But the cam, you are able to hold it because at that moment it's only the string, not with the arrow. So after you shot it 2, 3, 4, 5 times, the string now is totally flat. Now the benefit of now you can use the full containment again, because as you say, moon knock. Can you imagine this? What I just described is exactly the problem with the moon knock and the benefit of a moon knock and the not so benefit of the moon knock, which is also the same reason why you on the vertical bow. See, remember everything I talk about applied to regular bow. The knock engagement on a vertical bow is the exact opposite of a crossbow, because a crossbow, you want the knock to not be tight on the string because you got a guided rail.
Yep.
Which is exactly the difference between, say, a guided rail and, say, a raven, which doesn't have rail, which also means that in a vertical bow, what your knock should be. Your knock should be reasonably tight on the string with a slight movement to let the string rotate without causing the arrow to turn.
Yep. So
can you imagine if it affect a crossbow that much in high speed, high power? The moment you go to vertical bow, it's less effect and people didn't see it.
Yeah.
Which is the reason why when I deal with crossbow, I see all the thing because it's exaggerated.
Sure.
Significantly. Every single small thing become catastrophic if you screw it.
Yep. That makes sense.
I mean, just like string angles, I mean, it may not sound like a big deal, which is where the cam come in. I mean, Raven did what Raven did on the on all the Ravens. You can see the string. I mean, imagine this. Can I go to you and say, I'll give you an axle to axle length of 5 inches on a vertical bow?
Nope.
I mean, in the old days, I mean, in the old days, I remember when you tell people anytime, especially finger shooters, they will look at you funny. If you don't have a 50+ inch axle to axle, but actually, the word axle to axle is not a good it's not a good way to describe how a bow is. It's a cam edge to cam edge is the real deal.
Right.
Because think about it.
That's where the string comes from.
Correct. Because see, I remember the time of the PSEX, the freaking cam is 4.5 inch tall on the highest when you draw it. So if it's 30 inch axle to axle, you have 4.5 inch, which is 9 inch, that would be 39 inches in it.
Right. Right.
But because the cam keep changing, so people, the only thing that is truly, they want to use the number is axle to axle. But when you look at the Matthew cams, look at the size of that cam.
They're big.
The cam is easily 5 inches on the maximum rotate. You can add 3 inch on each side. So whatever number you add 6 to it. Yep. So the 31 adds 6 is what, 37?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think a lot of times we need to look at the entire process from a true mechanical point of view, not from marketing point of view. I mean, I got a marketing degree from IU, so I'm unspecialized in sales. So
you get
yes,
it. Yeah.
So you're talking to a guy who I remember the days when I was doing IT consulting. It was really funny. It's like I spend days selling, and then the moment I go back to the office, I got my team of programmers. It's like it took me a day to get my mind from what do you call it? From black to gray and gray to black. It was actually quite a challenge. But you know what? One thing I will never do in my life is deal with freaking HR. Freaking humans are. They're not in black and white. I don't know how to describe those.
Not at all.
Well, you know what? Being old like me and doing all this thing in life sometimes really sort of like enjoyable to talk to guys on. I mean, I'm sounding like an old guy. Well, those old days of. Sorry.
I'm not there yet.
No, you got a long way to go, my friend. You haven't seen enough to go back to the old days.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go back on the cam side.
Yeah, so I have a question there.
Sure.
When I was trying to lead into it, where you have obviously there's changes and there's differences between bow manufacturers and their cam and the shape, and you can feel the difference on the draw cycle when you pull it back. And for instance, what I mean by that is, say, a Hoyt draw cycle versus a Matthews draw cycle, where you have the Hoyt bow is stacked up front. It's harder to pull back initially, and then as you get through the center of the draw, it's smoother and it doesn't have the harsh drop off into the valley at the end of it. Whereas a Matthews, it's a little bit harder to pull back the whole time, and then there's a little bit of a drop off towards the end.
That itself is a bad statement. Let me explain to you why. What you're describing is what you have on your drawing for a specific company on a specific cam. Like the Matthew, think about it. Just say, let's stick with the 30-inch, 70-pound draw. You can't go ahead and pick the last C7 Extreme with the Reason to the Monster to the Creed and all the way to the Phase 4, okay? They are different. The draws are different.
I'm talking like year specifically. Like if you pick up a bow in 2022 of a brand new Matthews Phase 4 and a Hoyt VTM or an RX-7, like the Hoyt is harder to pull
because it's a binary cam. The Hoyt is a binary. See, the Hoyt in 2021 is not a binary cam, okay? The 22 RX-7 is a binary cam. The binary cam will always give you that, and that's the reason the binary cam is always faster.
Right.
Because they're just like you don't get free stuff. So you have to put it in somewhere. If it's super smooth, you're not going to get the speed. Just like the moment you say, oh, I just love the super small drum. Well, use the round cam. What do you expect?
Yeah.
You're not going to get the speed. Because at the end of the day, there's absolutely no free lunch.
Oh, no. Yeah. But if you put those two bows side by side, an RX-7 and a Phase 4, their IBOs are the exact same. It's 342.
No. See, this is where the difference is. The IBO is the same, but the moment you shoot both bows with a different arrow weight, the numbers will change significantly.
Oh, yeah.
And then I'm 30-inch. So that, let me just make a wild guess. I haven't shot any of them. Based on my experience, I'm just going to throw in the, like close my eyes and throw the dart. I think I won't be too off because I know where the target is. The Hoyt at, say, 425 grain at 29-inch is going to do around 305, and the Matthew will be around 270, 280. That's the difference.
Well, I think I am going to get to that here as I get through this. The draw force curve is different on the two models of cams. And my question to you is, if you have a draw force curve that's stacked in the front versus being stacked towards the back, what does that do to the efficiency?
No, it's not stacked in the front and stacked in the back. It's when do you put the energy and how it's being stored?
Yeah, that's what I'm.
The Hoyt is storing all the way. The
Right.
Matthew is just storing in the last end while you just give out the chance of moving. Now at the same time, and when you shoot the arrow, the Matthew is going to give you all the force the moment the let out come in, and from that point onwards, the force is going down.
Right.
And the Hoyt is going to give you the let off, and the force is going to move up. So the force applies going to longer, but that also have a big impact on how the arrow speed parried.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to ask. How does that affect the arrow speed downrange?
Well, this is where not just the let off, this is also the weight of the arrow come in.
Yeah, I'm talking like numbers here. Matthews to Hoyt, same 350, 350.
Right, and the Hoyt is going to be winning on every single part because you put more effort in it.
Because of the way the draw force curve is.
No, because the weight. I mean, not just the draw force curve. It's similar like how much energy is being applied. Remember, the moment you feel the power, you're putting energy in.
Right.
As you put more and more and more and more and more, you can get off more and more and more and more. I mean, it's like you need to give up in as much as possible because that's all you got. The process of putting in the power and then get out. In other words, this is how efficient a system is. So imagine this. This is the best way to describe in pure physics is that imagine this. You are putting in work into the system. The total amount of work, the highest, was going to give out the highest. But remember, it's also a mechanical device. So the efficiency of storing the energy in the limb, and the limb applied through the string, through the knock, to the arrow. But then how the arrow react to that energy. That's the reason, just like a guy who say bought a brand new, say Matthew last year, and then shoots fantastic with the 350, and this year bought a Hoyt. Well, guess what? The 350 ain't gonna work because the draw curve is so much higher. You need a 300 spine. So in other words, the whole thing has to be balanced. You say, wait, but they're both 70 pounds. That's where, remember, I back in the 1980s and 90s, when you look at the Eastern chart, besides weight and the weight of the arrow and the length of the draw length, they also added a whole column. Is it a hard cam, a soft cam, or no cam?
Mm-hmm.
So in other words, how can we now in today's world, those are not part of the deal. It's actually more aggressive. Actually, even right now, you should add the how many percent at all, but it's get too complicated. And that's the reason most people seem to say, oh, I'll just go with the highest spine.
Yep, stiffer.
Which is not wrong. I mean, the only problem with the highest spine is that you sacrifice on weight. You say, oh, I don't mind weight. I like heavy weight. See, this is the problem when most of the guys who shoot arrow today is that they look at spine, they forgot about spine is not just, spine is a number based on how the arrow going to react and how much it bends based on the load it gets. But which also mean one thing, you're not pushing force in the center like a spine machine does. You're pushing force from the back. So the more weight you put in the front, the worse the arrow gets again. And then those all have to come into play with the cam design. That means if you really enjoy a binary cam like the Hoyt or like a GT500 and so on, you want to get the best out of it. You want penetration shoot through shoulders, as most of the guys claim. Yes, get something like a 3/8 or 7/8 inch broadhead that's solid one piece, and go with something 10 to 12 or 13 grain per inch arrow. Now you got a rebar flying. Yes. I mean, I make that arrow because I understand a bunch of guys who love this, because see, one of the few guys who did it is like Rick McKinney on his Carbon Tech Rhino. I shoot that thing for years, but I go above and beyond. I think I shoot something like 5-6% FOC, and it was a mistake with the it was with the quick spin. That's the day that I saw the arrow go sideways and slap the deer. Yep, you can't do that shit that much. Sorry, I shouldn't say bad words on podcast. But that is where the thing you learn. I mean, I'm one of the few guys who actually push for the limits more than once.
Oh yeah. And
when you push for the limit more than once, you're gonna pay for it. But see, lately, I think a lot of guys push for the limit using their, remember, super high efficient cam. You need, I mean, right now, I think when Easton come up with the 204 size, it's a good approach. But I think a lot of people miss the boat because like when I first come at 204, I was trying to give the world something like a toy hammer. That's the reason I make those like 10 to 13.5 grain per inch. I think that will give all the guys what they need without going anything, because now you got a solid platform to go forward. Because see, you don't want the front of the arrow to be heavy with the new cam, with say a binary cam, and you want the arrow to be heavy.
Yeah, more
because now it is no longer. Imagine this. What's the best way to describe a super heavy FOC arrow on a binary cam compared to a heavy shaft arrow on a binary cam? One is like throwing a sock with the lead ball in front. The other is like throwing the same weight of a rebar.
Yeah,
that's the difference. The rebar is much better.
A Twizzler with a brick in front of it. Or
yep,
rebar.
Yeah, there's a whole rebar, because see, when that rebar touches, the rest of the rebar I keep pushing. It is like hitting with a train instead of just with a Mack truck with nothing behind. The more you hit, you bounce back.
Yeah.
But because the rebar effect, you keep going forward. That's where a heavy shaft is so much better. But nobody seems to really understand the heavy shaft benefit. That's where people say, oh, I need the speed. So they go with ultra high modular carbon on a binary cam. I mean, the Matthews is a middle of the road, which I really commend them for, because see, when you do everything in the middle of the road, you satisfy 90% of the people.
Sure.
But it's that extra 10% that can't go anywhere. But those are the guys who are really trying their best to do something.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember Chet's experience. It was so funny.
Yeah, that you should have been here you should have been here while he was going through it.
Well, that's exactly how that works. It's like you really can't do much about it. But you should see me running through it. Like the days with my Oneida X80, that 24-inch with that 8-inch overdraw, shooting a 23 7/8-inch long arrow on a 70-pound, on an 80-pound bow with a 30-inch draw. I mean, it's talking about ridiculous nowadays. And you know what I break the most? I break the serving all the time. You know why? The string was flipping forward so much, the serving was touching the arrows and got cut. That's how ridiculous it get.
Wow.
So if anybody want to say anything, yes, I was that stupid, but you know what? It come with age. When I'm in that age, I want to try everything. And I'm a physics guy, and I still do it because see, I figured that the physics apply to everyone except me. Well, I think my son is running through that phase too.
That's good. That's good. I have a couple more questions on the cam design. I think we'll just focus on that for the rest of the podcast. But so how does cam design affect the tunability of the bow? Is the tunability in the cam or is it in the accessories of the bow?
No, it's in the arrow. And exactly the way that what you want the arrow to do. Because every single cam, the moment you let me just remember in the really old days, that means you shoot a stick bow. Or the moment you build a bow, the only thing you need to do is find the arrow there and make that shoot great. This is the same thing with the new bows today. That's the reason, they say the camera 15, the no cam didn't shoot great. Yes, because you didn't shoot a 350 grain 30-inch arrow on a 70-pound draw. If you do that, you will get that spec.
Yeah.
So a lot of guys didn't get what they want because they figured let me tell you exactly a story. I got a very good friend, my brother-in-law's good friend, come to me with a Matthew DXT. He told me this bow is the best he ever shoot. You're so smooth and so on. So I look at that bow for a second. I noticed that off the cam is already, the cable is stretched. It's 4 years old. He said, this bow shoot 330. I say, no, you barely got 27-inch draw. And you have not shoot the bow for, you shoot the bow for 3 years. I put the bow on my bow scale, whack, pull back. 58. So it's 12 pounds off. I say, you're lucky to get 250 out of it. He said, no, he's a 335 bow. I said, no. First of all, he got monkey tails, he got pip sight, he got rubber band, the whole deal. I said, yeah, maybe 245, 270. He said, no, he's a 335 bow. I said, you should have Matthew Maxima. You got 125 grain points. What am I supposed to say? So I put on chronogram, shoot that. Oh, he was so freaking pissed off. He said 242. He was so pissed off. I said, let me get a new string for you. The moment I put a new string on it, the guy barely can put it back. It was back at 70 pounds.
Back to 70, yeah.
And he wanted me to build him arrow that's fast. I say, if you build that fast, can you hold it right? I mean, remember, you're shooting 58, 59 on the 70-pound bow, which is totally off whack.
Yeah.
No wonder he never shot anything.
That was probably what a
that's
70,
the reason
70%
we shall now
level.
name him on the short podcast.
And that was probably what on a 70% let off cam at the time, right? A DXT
65, yeah, 65, 70. The bow is extremely, extremely good for hunting, except the riser sucked. The riser bends. I know that. That's the reason. I told people if you want a DXT, stick with the 65 pound at max. You actually get better out of it.
So if we were to answer this guy's last part of this question, he wants to know what new bow could you recommend someone to get that would have great speed and easy tuning? And I think
Ooh,
this is new bow, Dorge. You can't go back to the Z7
I know,
Extreme.
I know. I'm just thinking of all the new bows today. I mean, you do have to say, I mean, easy tuning. I mean, you can technically instantly rule out Hoyt. The PSC, I can put them back. So the Hoyt, the PS, the Bowtech. I didn't talk about Bowtech bows a lot. The Bowtech bows are actually quite good if you look at for efficiency. They actually give you the speed because they are binary cam but very mechanical. In other words, they use mechanical engineering to do a lot of their work. But then again, you notice how much stuff the Bowtech have. It's very much like PSC in 2016. You need to know what you do on those stuff, like the set screws on the tip of the barrel, the what you call it, the barrel block. If you like speed, if you want, but you need to know what you're doing. So for most of the guys who don't know what they're doing, who just claim they have the best and the fastest and the latest, I hate to say that, the Matthew is not too wrong of a choice. But if you really want to go for it and then I mean, just like I have not seen this year's PSC. I thought they improved on what the Levitate did. I hope that I mean, after I play with the Levitate, I still think the Mark 1 is better. But if I put titanium gear on both, I think the Mark 1 is still better. But yeah, you know what? Again, we're talking draw length, arrow specific, will give you a lot. Right. So that's the reason that at the end of the day, you really, really, really need to know what your draw length is before you get a bow. Because most of the guy, I learned this the hard way because see, when I first got my laser tech, and I like it so much, I got my buddy who have a 25.5-inch draw, the same bow. That bow shoots so bad. Really, so bad. And he ended up getting a Bowtech Destroyer, and then instantly it was shooting fantastic. So every single bow, you need to shoot a feel to find out, just because she's great for another guy, if your drawing have more than 1 or 2 inch difference, it's a night and day difference.
Yeah, you're going to feel a whole bunch of different and everything.
Yeah, and then for say a guy which only got 50, like one of my favorite story, my customer with a 26-inch draw, 45-pound pool. He shot through a 68-yard of the elk.
Yeah,
but it was such a super efficient arrow. Remember the Jeremy from X-Wing Custom? He built him that arrow.
Yep.
I mean, just like I got another customer who barely able to put 65 pounds but want to shoot an elk at 80 yards. Well, I told him I can't build him the arrow. Jeremy is doing it because that is where, when you start moving to that extreme and want to do all of the above, that's where I say the understanding and able to push the limit. Just like when you win a race, it's not just the driver, it's the top mechanic.
Sure. Yeah. I have one more cam question here. I don't know if you've even seen it yet. Did you see Elite's new cam that they came out with?
I don't think I had, but I can take a fast look and tell you what my first thought is.
Well, I can tell you right now. It's called the SP cam. And what I think is intriguing about it is it's a modular cam, rotating mod, and it is adjustable in quarter inch draw length and up to 1% let off adjustments. What do you think of that?
Well, if you take, first of all, the way on the get-go, the cam approach is very, very much like the cam approach where the PSC X used to be. If you look at it, they're very, very similar. And second, they try to make the cam extremely light, which, based on my experience with extremely light approach, you get speed. And you do say 1% let off.
Yeah.
Which is a 99%. Or
well, no. You can adjust it from 70 to 90, but in 1% increments. So if you don't want 80% let off, you want 79% let off, you can adjust it in one percentile increments.
Well, then it's a good tool of engineering. Since I haven't shot it, I can't really say much about it. And then I have not put it on a drawboard to tell you, because one of the best thing to anything, the proof is in the pudding. Let's put it on a drawboard and look at the how the piece is. Because see, at the end of the day, drawboard, unlike a human's muscles are different. It will tell you exactly how it is. I mean, the thing is that the power they apply to the bow, at the end of the day, your arm do not move in a circle. It is not a pure work environment like a motor. Even a motor, you add diameter to it, the efficiency changed, the torque changed. So that bow may be fantastic, but I do not know that until I actually tried it. Or put it on a drawboard and go for it. And at the end of the day, it is not a super fast bow.
No,
I mean,
it's not. Yeah, 336.
Maybe they are aiming for shootability, but then again, anybody tell me they got a really good bow with 80% let off? I would say no.
Needed 70, 75.
I would say 80 and down is where you need to be. Unless if you're shooting 20, 25 yards, you can do anything you want. I mean, it doesn't matter. At that moment, you can go for 90, 95. I mean, I know a lot of guys love the E for 95% off, but those guys don't shoot putts 20 yards anyway.
Yeah.
They sit in the blind, put the bow back, hold it for like 45 or 2 minutes, and then shoot the deer. Oh, got it. Yes, you can do that. I mean, but that's the same thing with the Raven. I mean, with the down 20X, you got 30 shots before you change the string cable, but the guy never make more than 10 shots in the season. So it's plenty.
Yeah. Yeah.
But guys like you who enjoy shooting, you literally put hundreds and hundreds of shots into it, telling you that you can shoot that bow before changing, you got 30 shots is unacceptable for different customer. But then, like my neighbor's wife, she bought the 26, and then for the last 4 years, she killed 2 deer every year. I would tell you, that bow have 3 string change, and that's not more than 10 shots per year out of that bow.
That's terrible.
No, but she is superbly happy. She's a happy customer. And in some way, that is what, I mean, the guy from Bowtex are all really good marketing guys. They understand that. I mean, you need to look at what your customer wants and then apply it. And then with the maximum engineering approach to give you the maximum what the customer appreciate. I mean, you need to draw that balance. The same thing with the bow design. It is, can you do something extreme? Yes. Just like if I come up with a bow with everything I got on it, I would say 0.5% of people will buy it.
Because it's too expensive?
Not just that. I mean, for sure it's good. I mean, you know me. When you know object, just go for it. It'll be too expensive, and I only would satisfy the people who want the most. It's like the days when I do stereo. I mean, you get a set of Martin Logan, a set of timpani, the set of apologies. I mean, how many people are going to spend $35,000 a pair of speakers and spend $80,000 on remodeling their house so the speakers sound good? Zero. And then spend $200 on the cable before you talk about preamp amps.
Yeah.
But those guys who want it, that's the only thing they want. It's the same thing with everything, just like fishing or stereo or cars. I mean, you're talking a guy going to spend $13,000 on a brake change, right? That's a used car and a half.
Yeah, that's a couple.
Right, but that's not what most of the guy want. So if you're a company who make mass market, like Matthew, Hoyt, Bowtech, Elite, I mean, you need to find the best balance, the most easy to sell, and then comply with 90% of customer need. That was very tough. I mean, like every company say, oh, I have the fastest. Well, just because it's the fastest doesn't mean people buy it. It's like you can say, well, Ferrari is always faster than most others, or Lamborghini faster. But can you make it that most people buy it?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a good point. Anything else on cam design you want to leave off with here?
Well, actually, I think in most cases, people need to understand cam design is only 30% of the deal. 70% is in the arrow. So if you have the right arrow with the right cam and you matched it, again, the word is balance. I know people say the moment is what my favorite word is, but at the end of the day is balance.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. So I guess thank you for the question. Thanks for going to Dorge's YouTube channel and commenting the question. If you guys have more questions, please make sure you're giving them to us. And I need all of you listeners here to get behind Dorge. He's still out there pounding away at those deer trying to get one. So send him all of your good vibes. Dorge, is there you have any concluding remarks here?
I would like to say at the end of the day, don't chase the perfect bow, but chase the perfect arrow. You'll be much better off doing that. In other words, it's like the days of the software. The days of paying 50, 70% on the hardware and 30% on the software days are over. The same thing with bows. The bow design is not going to change much. You need to chase the perfect arrow to make that bow sing, and how to make that bow a better bow for you. I think that's the real deal. So maybe, I know a lot of bow manufacturers won't like me. Maybe your best bow is the bow you feel most comfortable with, and chase the best arrow and accessory to go put on it.
Yeah, I think it's a lot cheaper to buy a few dozen different arrows than to buy a few different bows every year and see what works best for you.
Well, it's not just that. It's not a few dozen arrows. It's that you find an arrow that's actually built for what you need.
Yep.
I mean, just like I'll go back to racing again. On a Formula One, each team can go through a container to a container and a half of tires per race. Do you know what a container of tires look like? And think about it. You barely went through a set of tires every 60,000 miles. They went through, quote unquote, a set of wheels on 2 turns.
Yeah.
Why is it so important? Because that's what matters.
Yep.
Just like hunting, it is not the bow, it's the arrow and the broadhead and the vein. All right, that will conclude my day for the cam. So the cam only pushed that. So you can talk about engine all day long until you got tires, engines, nothing.
Mic drop. I think that's that's a good place to leave off. Thanks for your time, Dorge.
You're very welcome. Have a wonderful day.